Hey, welcome. We are 1 hour into the trading session on Wednesday, August 30th. So far, nothing has really been happening. That's not too surprising because we've been saying how we're probably just going to chop sideways, maybe through the end of the week, but at the very least today, because we've got those NVIDIA earnings coming out after market today. We've got the GDP coming out tomorrow. Is it NVIDIA after market or before? It's aftermarket today. So we'll know the impact NVIDIA like, about 1 o'clock, 1:30 today. Actually, we probably wait until their investor call to get the real reaction because NVIDIA is probably going to beat earnings estimates, most likely. But what they say afterwards during the conference, if they start talking about competition, if they start talking about supply issues, supply chain issues, delivery issues, that could send stocks down or send NVIDIA downwards, even if they beat earnings. So we're just going to expect volatility after NVIDIA starts to announce their earnings. Until then, we're probably going to be pretty quiet over here. You can see that we're just last several days we've just kind of been bouncing off of that EMA 8. Normally, most technicians will tell you that, hey, that's setting up for a more likely to break out to the upside. But with NVIDIA earnings and GDP and PCE, I still call it about 50-50. I just want to be protected to the downside because if we go down, NVIDIA is not going to send us by itself to all-time highs or beyond all-time highs, but it could send us significantly downwards. So there is more risk to the downside than the upside. And so I just want that protection to the downside. So let's take a look at how we've been trading in the S&P, which we already know has been pretty quiet, but we'll take a closer look anyways. There we go. S&P, you can see that we do have a slight downward bias so far in the morning today. It looks like we might be able to break beyond that, but really we're just chopping sideways. If I just take the high of today and the low, I guess this is the low, but this is a better representation about this 560 level, maybe 550 level, we're probably just going to chop in that range. I'd be surprised if we get too directional today ahead of NVIDIA. So that means if you're a day trader, well, you can use those as ranges, but that's not a lot of movement. That's not going to give you a lot of profit. So on a day like today, where we've got very low volume and we're just chopping sideways, it's better to look for something that actually has some momentum in it. And during earnings seasons, the easy play is just to look at major followed companies that just announced earnings, because most likely they're going to have plenty of volatility. So we've got a couple examples. One would be KSS, Kohl's. You can see that we've got plenty of volume. We have got a direction here. It's biased to the upside. So we would want to wait to see if we could get a little bit closer to the VWAP, or this area seems the 265 to 270 area looks like a pretty good place to maybe try KSS to the upside. Another one was JWN, Nordstrom. You can see that they're kind of chopping sideways. They don't really have much of a directional bias. They did at the very beginning, but they kind of tapered off. So we're probably range bound over here. So maybe not JWM. And then we've got Chewy. Chewy is definitely directional, moving upwards. You can see been very strong. Came off that VWAP a couple of times, not quite to the VWAP. So I would say if we start pulling back downwards, you may consider around 29 an entry, or if by that time we get there, 28.50, near the VWAP. As you can see, that we didn't quite hit VWAP over here. So we could just say at the moment, if the next bar was around 28.50 or 28.35, then I would consider this area. But this is going to keep on floating upwards, so that's going to be relative. We're not going to call an exact value, except for this one right here, the 29-ish level might be a good place to enter. So on days, again, where the S&P is really quiet, you could still find things that are moving. Looks like QQQ has a nice downward bias though. So, wow, it's really starting to go right now. So we instead of the SPY, you could do QQQ. So it looks like QQQ is not holding up that well on an intraday basis. Let's see what that looks like on a daily basis. QQQ. It's not that significant. So this is really just chop sideways. So again, we're not really expecting any of the indices to get too directional before those NVIDIA announcements, especially QQQ and especially SPY. And then SMH should just be same thing. Yeah, just chopping sideways. We're all waiting for that NVIDIA announcement. So today I would just be very careful. Really, I would only, unless you're day trading, I would only be looking at taking a tail risk trade or a hedge for NVIDIA earnings, which could be NVIDIA, could be SMH, could be QQQ, could be IWM. And let's take a look at our sectors, see what's catching our attention today. So this is SMH down. So I don't know, maybe a little bit of lightening up immediately before NVIDIA, or actually it could be hedging activity that could drive things downward also. So we might not be the only ones hedging this NVIDIA trade. And then it looks like ITA defense stocks are doing very well today. XLF and XLRE. So we can take a quick look at those three. And nothing else really standing out. XLK down, but we've got this cluster of XLK, XLY, and XLC. Okay, so that makes sense. So the QQQ stocks, and we just saw QQQ breaking down. So let's take a quick look at ITA, XLF, XLRE. ITA is looking great. I would definitely be okay with going into defense stocks because they're not really going to be affected much by NVIDIA or tech. So ITA is looking excellent. And let's take a look at XLF. XLF is looking pretty good as well. Very, very good, actually. And they'll be one of those that are more insulated from anything that goes on tech as well. And XLRE. XLRE is looking good, but not as good as those other two, but it's still very, very strong. And again, no direct correlation to QQQ or tech stocks or SMH or chip stocks, but you can see that this is more flat, not directional, like the other two that we just looked at. And also because of the interest rate relationship, XLRE could be affected by a little bit by QQQ. So ITA and XLF looking good for today. I wouldn't mind taking a couple of long positions if I needed to balance something out, or if I needed to neutralize my portfolio and I needed upside exposure. XLF and ITA would be the ones that I'd be looking at. XLU is still very strong, so very good. I wouldn't mind XLU exposure, and XLP. Same, XLP is great, XLP. So you can still add exposure to XLP. So we have a lot of choices if we need to balance out our portfolio to the upside. Take advantage. You have a few hours before the NVIDIA earnings, and just my personal preference at this moment in time is just to stay neutral and have either a hedge or tail risk trade in place, and that tail risk trade would be biased to the downside because the risk associated with NVIDIA earnings is a lot more to the downside than it is to the upside. So have a wonderful trading session, get prepared. It'll probably be pretty exciting aftermarket when NVIDIA announces earnings. And I will see you in that aftermarket session, and we'll see if we can catch the movement. I don't know if the announcement will come too late for us, but we'll give it a shot. Have a wonderful rest of your day.